Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show, Fantasy Football. We are, of course, looking ahead to match week 7 of the Bundesliga and doing all those necessary and vital, transfers and hints and tips, mainly from Runa. So, hope you're all doing well and can tune in and enjoy what we have in store for you. Obviously, before we get stuck into it, Runa, we were kind of alluding to this last night on the prediction show, myself and Mark. How was Copenhagen versus FC Bayern Munich as an experience? Because you did indeed go and watch that yourself midweek.
Yeah, that was a cool experience. Went to cover the game as a journalist, so I went to the press conferences the day before the game and to the Bayern training as well. And then on the day the game was played, I went to cover the game, write a match report, and then straight down to the mix zone afterwards to get a few quotes from Thomas Müller and Ulreich and Thomas Tuchel. So really cool experience. And actually, I was a bit disappointed with Bayern. I thought Copenhagen actually did quite well to keep them from creating big chances, and with a bit more luck, they could actually have taken a point, especially if Ulreich hadn't made that impressive reflex save in injury time. So
Yeah.
a game that was actually pretty close, and I guess a lot of people expected Bayern to be more dominant, but really exciting game, actually, a close one.
Awesome stuff. Well, it doesn't give me much confidence for my boys going over there and getting a result, Runa. But maybe I'll be able to cry to that result as and when it happens. But anyway, we wouldn't certainly not start talking about Man United, or else it will definitely go on a downward trajectory. We are here for fantasy football only. So, of course, as per usual, we'll start with your defender picks, Runa, which are going at the bottom of the screen for everyone to see. So kick us off with your budget pick, and we'll work our way through.
Yeah, my budget pick this week is Matthias Bader, who I think could be a maybe possible replacement for Stenzel if you want someone else, an alternative to Stenzel in the same price category. He's on sale this week, and I thought Darmstadt played a really good game against Werder last week. Obviously, Werder also struggled a lot defensively, but nevertheless, we saw just how involved the wingbacks are offensively, and Bader got on the score sheet and also made an assist, so he got 21 points. Of course, you can't expect him to do that every week, but nevertheless, I think Darmstadt will take a lot of confidence from the win over Bremen, and I think that could cause problems for Augsburg. I expect it to be a close, high-scoring game, so I could see Bader potentially doing quite well again. And my mid-price pick is Luca Netz from Gladbach, who I think Gladbach have looked like a really improved side in recent weeks. They look much more stable than they did from the start of the season, I think. And Netz had a pretty good game against Bochum last week. He scored 12 points. So his ownership is 0%. So a pretty good differential in that price category. I feel they're playing Mainz at home this week, and as we all know, Mainz are in deep trouble. So it's a game that look very favorable for Gladbach on paper. And then finally, my premium pick is Grimaldo from Leverkusen. And I actually thought about, I just did a late change from David Raum to Grimaldo, because I feel absolutely confident that Grimaldo will play, because he was rested against Molde last night. So he looks like a pretty safe bet to play, unlike Raum, who is a rotation risk after playing full time against Manchester City. So that's a thing to consider, of course, after international games, European games. And obviously, Grimaldo is in great form too. He's actually the highest scoring defender in the game right now, after a few amazing free kicks and some great hauls in also against Bayern. That he did really well that game, and that shows that he's capable of picking up points against any opponent. And besides, Leverkusen have a really favorable fixture at home against local rivals FC Köln this weekend, and they rested a lot of players against Molde and still managed to get the win. So they should have pretty fresh legs despite playing in Europe. And I think Grimaldo is great alternative to Frimpong, and also possible supplement if you want them both. That could also work out well.
Yeah, absolutely. I subbed him in. I transferred Grimaldo in last week, quite last minute actually. I was very pleased when he banged in that free kick and doubled up with Frimpong. I don't think Frimpong got as many points last week, but of course he did contribute towards the to the own goal. Not sure if he would have got any points of that directly, but still, heavily involved as he always will be. Yes, let's just double check then any questions in relation to defenders. Good morning, Sophia. Good morning, Quickar. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. I think there's a question here around defenders. Let's pick this one up. Is it essential to pick Raum? If yes, who is okay to drop, Davis or Frimpong? So, Rooney, you've already half covered this, but just to maybe clear it up, whether it's essential to have Raum in this week, and if you were to have him, would you drop one of Davis or Frimpong?
No, I would try to maybe spend less elsewhere to keep Davis and Frimpong too, because I think they're pretty much essential at this stage. Also because of their ownership. Not only are they both capable of really hauling, they're also very highly owned. So you're really missing out if you don't have them. But as I said earlier, I think Raum is obviously an amazing option if he plays, but he's not absolutely nailed on to play because he could be rested, and they have Lens too, who could maybe get a run out. So picking Raum is, it could really work out if he plays, but it's not 100% certain. Kicker, for example, don't have him in their predicted lineup for the game. So if I were to get Raum, I would probably make sure to have to play in a formation where I would have someone else with quality to sub in if he's not playing. So maybe with, say, 4 defenders, and then pick another fourth one who I would know who would back to do well too, just to make sure to have a good backup for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll come to some more questions. There's quite a few flying in just at the moment. One from Sophia. I'll put it on screen just for the moment, and then we'll take it off so we can see Runa's lovely face. How many maximum players can you have from one team in the Bundesliga fantasy? Already have Boniface, Wirtz, Hoffman, and Frimpong. Will adding Grimaldo be overload? Runa, you might be best to answer this one. The overload question, I think, is certainly what a lot of people do with certain teams. But do we have a maximum for having a certain amount of players from each team, or can we just literally go for a full starting 11 of Leverkusen if we wanted to?
I think we could do that actually, which is kind of special. In most other fantasy games, there is a limit, but as far as I know, there's no limit in this game. But obviously, the danger of picking too many players from the same team is that if they don't do well, then you're pretty much screwed. Sometimes it's a good idea to spread out the risk a bit more and not put all your eggs in the same basket. But on the other hand, if you feel confident that Leverkusen will do well, then it can work out. And this week they have a really favorable matchup, and me personally, I can't see why they shouldn't do well against Köln at home, especially considering that they rested a lot of players against Molde, including Boniface and Grimaldo. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Also because a lot of people will probably use the same strategy. So if Leverkusen lose, then a lot of people will suffer from that. Most people will probably look to get at least 3 or 4 Leverkusen assets in. So I don't think it would hurt you that much if they don't win. So I wouldn't mind personally adding Grimaldo to the back, even if you have Frimpong already.
Yeah, absolutely. Sophia, I went really hard on Leverkusen last weekend as well. Obviously for the Mainz fixture, so it's absolutely warranted, but there is risk that comes in with it. Just checking for anything else in regards to defenders. Captain Rex checking in. Managed to make it. I've sent a couple of defender questions in. Okay, I'll double check my phone for those. Doos. Anything else? Okay, I think we're okay for defenders. What I'll do is I'll just quickly go back onto phone, and there's definitely something from FBL Will Henson. Will, you have to let me know if you're Captain Rex on YouTube as well. But there is a question here in defenders. Frimpong bench this match day, played full 90. So question marks around that. And Visor sell this match day as well. So they're the two defender questions. Runa, Visor, I think we're probably looking at selling him after a couple of, Leverkusen, Werder aren't looking too sharp in that regard. So that's probably a very wise move. And then Frimpong, so did Frimpong get a full 90 against Molde? And then is it a case of him maybe being rotated out? I'd be surprised, but if he was benched, but maybe you can help out with that one. And thank you for clarity on that, Will, on who you are on the YouTube point of view.
Yeah, I don't think he would be rotated out. He's just too important for the way they play, I feel. And also, Stanisic also played the full game against Molde, and he would be the alternative to Frimpong. Obviously, is a very different player. So if you play with Stanisic as a right back, then you're playing with 4 at the back instead of the usual 3-man back line that they field in the Bundesliga. So I expect them to continue with the 3-4-2-1 formation that they've used with a lot of success in the Bundesliga so far. And yeah, Frimpong will almost certainly start. That's my assessment at least. And then maybe he could get subbed off if Leverkusen managed to kill the game off early.
Absolutely. So we shall move on to midfielders, and then we'll pick up any questions afterwards as per. So Runa, lead us through your budget pick all the way through to premium, and I shall bring it all up on screen as well.
Yeah, budget pick this week is another Darmstadt player. I think they have a lot of interesting cheap options that could be great enablers this week. Tim Skage is a midfielder in the game, as we can see, but he's actually playing up front for Darmstadt alongside Pfeiffer. And he scored a great goal against Werder last week, was played in behind and really took it well, that chance. And I think Augsburg have looked really shaky at the back this season. So I think he should have a good chance of doing well again. And for 4 million, I don't think you can really go wrong with him. Just gotta love a midfielder actually playing as a striker. So that gives him a lot of potential, I think. And my mid-price pick is another guy from a newly promoted side, and that's Jan-Niklas Beste from Heidenheim, who is just playing a key role for Heidenheim almost every week. He's involved in everything they do offensively, on set pieces, and just very involved. And that's the kind of players we really like in fantasy. Picks up a lot of points, not just from the great free kicks he scores, but also from setting up shots and taking shots himself. So he's the 5th highest scoring midfielder in the game so far, and I don't see why Heidenheim shouldn't be able to get a good result against Eintracht. I think Eintracht have been very disappointing so far this season. They need to find a new identity after losing a lot of key players during the summer. They also have a new coach, and I don't think they've really found their feet on the top Müller so far. So I could see Heidenheim doing well in that game, especially because Eintracht also played last night and may be a bit exhausted as a result. And they also lost, of course, to PAOK in the Conference League last night. So another disappointing performance for them, and I don't think their confidence is really high at the moment. So it's a game that I could see Heidenheim maybe taking something from. And then finally, premium pick is Xavi Simons, who has been a bit disappointing points-wise in recent games, but he's very hard to overlook at the moment. With Leipzig playing Bochum at home, he could be in for a really big haul, and he's already demonstrated how much he can do, what kind of a special player he is. So I think he's close to a must-have this week.
Absolutely, yeah. Smashing stuff. Thank you very much for that, Runa. Right, I'll just go work my way backwards because I know there are some midfielder questions that we had earlier on during the show. So let's just double check. First one in here. Furyk to Neuhaus. Interesting proposition. Obviously, with Furyk maybe having a slightly tougher matchup again at home, albeit to Wolfsburg. So maybe slightly harder to call whether Furyk will have an impact. And Neuhaus really starting to play some good football actually for Gladbach. So, what are your thoughts on that one, Runa?
Yeah, I mean, Neuhaus had a good game last time out, but I think apart from that game, he's had a few good games, but he's also had a lot of games where he hasn't lived up to the role he's been given, the number 10 he's been given. So I think it would be a risk. I think Furyk is a safer pick. In principle, I like Gladbach's fixture more, but I think I would be surprised to see Furyk not getting a pretty respectable amount of points, whereas I could see Neuhaus potentially disappointing. I don't see the same risk with Furyk, so I would just stick with him.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Or wait until Friday night as they've got the Friday night fixture. If he's picked, then, by all means, make your decision around that. Question in from Imran. Pick one for this round, Royce or Brandt. Well, Royce has certainly been making a habit of scoring of late and having a little bit of a renaissance, so to speak. Brandt, stable player in Dortmund's team. In a Dortmund team that aren't firing on all cylinders, Runa, for sure, but they're getting the job done, albeit, and they'll probably be looking to this weekend versus a real struggling and luckless Union to maybe start bagging a few more goals. So, what are your thoughts on Brandt or Royce?
Yeah, it's pretty much a question of whether you want to go with the differential option or you want to go with the safe option. I think Royce is actually one of the best differentials in the game at the moment. His ownership is down to 4%, and he's been scoring a lot of goals for Dortmund recently, as you said, Rory. So it's a really good differential. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the other fantasy managers, he could be a good option to go with, I think. But obviously, if Brandt has a great game and Royce doesn't have one, then it will hurt you a lot not to have Brandt, because his ownership is, I think it's around 30% or something like that. So depends on whether you want to try to differentiate yourself from the others, or you want to choose the safe pick. I think Royce could pay off. He's one of the most informed Dortmund players at the moment.
He is. I feel like Royce might be slightly more open to being subbed or not started as well, purely just based on his age, I think, these days. Another one in from Imran. Is Olmo fit to play? If fit, then choose between Olmo and Xavi Simons. But I think we're erring on the safety side of things here and going for Xavi Simons.
Yeah, he's not fit yet, so he's expected to be back after the international break. If you want to take a chance with Leipzig and if you can't afford Simons or want to go with someone cheaper, I think Carvalho will start for Leipzig. I think that would make sense, because Forsberg is an aging player, and he also just played against Manchester City, and I could see Rose make some changes, and I think that would be a logical change to make to give Carvalho the chance. And as far as I remember, he's also on sale this week. So I think he would be a pretty cool differential. If not instead of Simons, then as like a supplement to Simons in midfield.
Absolutely. One last question, and then we shall move on to the forwards this week. We're jumping back in regards to defence for Anurag. So my defence is Weiser, Davis, Stenzel, Frimpong, Vitek, budget pick. Should I get Grimaldo and play 4-3-3 or stick with the 3-4-3 without him? I mean, obviously, based on what we've already seen on the show, Anurag, in regards to Runa's premium pick being Grimaldo, it feels like quite a necessary transfer for you to get in, Runa? Would you be happy getting Grimaldo in and trying to get a few of those other players out? We've already mentioned taking Weiser out, for example.
Yeah, I think you could pretty much take him as a direct replacement for Weiser. I think that would be a logical way to do it. You could also play 3-4-3 still, just with Davis and Frimpong and Grimaldo, and then you would have both Stenzel and Vitek to come in potentially if one of the other three expensive options disappoint. So that's also an option.
Yeah, and then you got Stenzel on the bench should he do well as well. Very good stuff. Moving on to forwards, then, as you can see them scrolling at the bottom of your screens. As per Runa, let's start with your budget pick and we'll work our way through.
Yeah, my budget pick this week is Maximilian Bayer, who started out the season really well, and he scored 4 games in a row. Didn't get on the score sheet against Dortmund last week, but he's up against Werder, and I think their defense was really woeful against Darmstadt. They really, really struggled in that game, and generally I think Werder look like one of the poorest teams at the moment. They're having a lot of problems, I think. So the prospects of Bayer getting back on the score sheet should be are looking pretty bright, I think. So a good option if you want to go with a cheap one up front. And then my mid-price pick is Alessandro Plea, who's had a really difficult start to the season. I think he really stepped up for Gladbach last week, scored 27 points and was involved in all 3 of their goals. So that should give him a lot of confidence. And as we already talked about, Gladbach have a good fixture against Mainz at home. So and his ownership is 0%. So that's a lot of differential potential there. And then finally, Luis Openda from Leipzig is my premium pick. He scored in each of Leipzig's last 2 games, even if they've played Bayern and Manchester City. So that says something about him. I think that he's managed to score in those 2 games against some of the best teams in Europe. And now they're playing Bochum at home. So with all respect to Bochum, that will be a very different game for Leipzig. So I think that he should have a lot of potential to do well there, even if Bochum will probably defend deep, and it will be a different game tactics-wise too. Probably won't have as much space. Nevertheless, I think they should be able to open that Bochum defense as so many others have done before this season, including Stuttgart and Bayern, who have both beaten Bochum with taking big wins against Bochum at home. So Openda, I feel, is an alternative a lot to the trio of Kane and Boniface and Guirassy. Maybe it would be worth taking him in instead of Guirassy. I think that's a move to consider. I wouldn't take out Kane or Boniface by any means, but I mean, Leipzig have a slightly better fixture than Stuttgart. So that's I think that's a reasonable thing to consider. But who knows? Maybe Openda will get taken off, get subbed off early. So a lot of things to consider there. But I think it's at least it's worth thinking about whether to include him up front.
Yeah, of course. Good stuff. And what we'll of course do is just finish off for any questions that are coming in regards to forwards. I can see one straight away in front of me from Quickart. So should I drop some of my Wolfsburg players considering they're playing against Stuttgart, or is it a match that could go either way? I mean, yeah, the match could go either way. Stuttgart's home form has been incredible so far this season, so it will be a tough place for Wolfsburg to go atmosphere-wise and playing-wise. But equally, I think in the predictions, Mark went for a home win, but it could quite easily be like a high-scoring draw as well for me. So genuinely, you could go with your Wolfsburg assets, Jonas Wind, et cetera, and they could do really well. Similarly, Stuttgart, it probably will be a high-scoring match regardless. Runa, would you agree with that suggestion? Probably be still a good match for anyone who's playing in it.
Yeah, I agree. I would back Stuttgart if I were to pick one of the 2 teams, but yeah, I agree with the assessment. Wolfsburg could get a result, could get a point there at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Question of the week from Jeff: who to sell to make room for Openda? Yeah, absolutely. It's a tricky one, but maybe with the matchups that you face with Kane, Boniface, and Girassi, you just have to go on who is playing who, really, and probably that may well be the smartest move is to take Girassi out, but it's a hell of a hard question this week. It really is. One in from Abdullah Kramaric might outscore many popular forwards this week. Yeah, interesting.
I don't think he will play, actually. He's
okay.
He's out. Matarazzo said that yesterday. So wait and see if there's an update. But for now, I think it's too much of a risk to get him because he looks pretty questionable.
There you go. That's why we have you here, Runa, for all the latest and up-to-date news from those press conferences. Sorry, just scrolling back in the timeline. Another question in here. Girassi, Boniface, and Kane locked in for this week as well. Swapped to someone like Openda. I hope we've half answered that question for you. It is the hard transfer of the week. I think it really is, absolutely, as been mentioned. I'll just come back to the questions that were asked pre-show by FBL Will. Just how much do we invest in Leipzig? Will Openda be benched for this match day? So I'm pretty confident that we won't see Openda benched, but as Runa said, he might, be dragged off at a certain point. Runa, how heavy are we going? Balcom, a matchup is, like you say, they might be playing a little bit deeper. It might be less space for Leipzig to operate in. But you almost feel as well, once the dam breaks, if Leipzig can get one or two early doors, then it could be a high-scoring one and a feast for any Leipzig assets that you might have.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Openda and Simons are the two players to target. And then it's just to make a decision on whether to sell Girassi for Openda, if you want to do that. And I think, as I said earlier, Raum is a great option if he plays, but at the moment it's looking a bit doubtful. So it's a risk to take to get him. And then Klosterman is likely to play instead of Henriks, who's out injured. So could go with Klosterman if you want a cheaper option, but he doesn't have the same potential at all as Henriks and Raum. So not offering the same at all.
Yeah, agreed. And then last one from FBL Will was avoid Friday bar the goalkeepers. So generally speaking, well, I don't think there'd be any suggestions at the moment for any Mainz players to be included in your fantasy team. And from a Gladbach point of view, well, I mean, obviously we've seen Player being mentioned by yourself, Runa, so it'd be an interesting one for people to consider. Neuhaus as well, who's been mentioned. So a couple of ones to potentially consider or make a gamble with as differentials, but I don't think there's any staple players that you'd be missing out on Friday, on tonight's fixture, of course. Just making sure. I don't think we've missed out any other questions. Just scrolling all the way through. So I think that's us done and dusted on time. So thank you to everyone, as per usual, for joining in, asking questions and watching along with us. Absolutely love how many people get involved and what a great community of FBL or Bundesliga fantasy people that we have involved. One thing that I did forget to say at the start of the show is, of course, please smash a thumbs up on the video. You wouldn't believe how much it helps in terms of spreading the video far and wide. Comment along if you've missed the show whilst it was live. As per usual, myself and Runa will do our utmost to get to it before the Friday night fixture kicks off. And press the red button, subscribe to the channel. There's loads going on at the moment on the site, particularly from our Bundesliga point of view. We had the prediction show last night, so check that out. See if you agree with mine and Mark's thoughts. And the vlog, which had a little bit of tech issues when it first dropped, but it then went fully live again at 10:30 last evening. Mark and Peter's most recent foray out into the Bundesrepublik. So make sure you check that out. That'll be available throughout time, and it'll be a really interesting watch for everyone. So please do make sure you check that out as well. Thank you to Runa and, of course, for Bully News for being our continued partners for the show, and, of course, Bundesliga Boxes. Thank you to everyone that has tuned in. And so, yeah, have a lovely weekend of Bundesliga football, and we will catch you all next time.
Bye-bye.